I'm here with Steve from Parallel Properties. He's a broker and owner there, and a good friend of mine. So we are sitting down today to chat a little bit about those clients who are interested in potentially getting into investment properties. So wanting to break in and they just want to know some details. What is that? What are some things that are entailed? Because I think that's one of the challenges people have. They have this great idea, hey, I want to invest in a property,
Sure.
and then they they do that. I make it really easy for them to buy a house and whatnot, and then they go, now what, Kelly? And I'm like, you're on your own.
We get those calls, not from your clients, but other clients all the time.
Yeah, and so you don't know what you're getting into.
We're very regularly taking the call. Hey, I just bought an investment property. Now what? And I'm like, well, before you bought it, how much were you anticipating it would rent for? Oh, we don't know. How do you how do you buy an investment and not even have a gauge of what it's renting for? So we find people just go in almost like the second I spend money on real estate, I'm gonna make money. And it's
Right.
like, wow, there's actually a lot of stuff going on between you buying it and renting it and collecting that rent payment every month that it seems like people are going in with their eyes wide shut sometimes. So, and on the other end of the spectrum, there's some people who have it down to a spreadsheet and they're not allowing for any fluctuation in the market. And Calgary's a boom bust economy. There's no two ways about it.
Mm,
So it's you have kind of two ends of the
yeah.
spectrum. So that's the kind of been our experience.
Mm. One of the questions that I try and sit down with people and coach them through right when they're getting into things is to talk about what is the point of this investment? um, because there's different types of investment. Today we're going to talk about residential stuff, but what is it? What is your goal behind this investment? Is it cash flow? Is it long-term equity? Um, any thoughts on that?
I mean, everyone will have to answer that for themselves, but I think uh, the buy and hold is probably the way we've seen people prosper long term. People who really need cash flow every single month, it's like very rarely that they're accounting for the boom bust cycle that
Mm,
Calgary will boom and bust. It just will.
mm,
Constantly it's boom bust cycle. So the people who need to cash flow, I mean, unless they're very serious investors with like, 100 doors and they sort of have their science figured out, I don't think the average investor should say, oh, I'm always going to cash flow because, 2 years, the oil cycle could fluctuate and all of a sudden you're not cash flowing. So I think you really
mm.
have to go into it with a mindset that cash flow is awesome, but saying, hey, this dirt is going to be worth more in 10 years than it is now, and kind of take that into your considerations.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely true in this economy. Uh, let's move maybe more towards talking about single family homes if we do want to focus on equity, that long-term gain, because like you said, cash flow isn't guaranteed in Calgary. Then one of the things I typically push people towards is finding a property that can have at least two suites in it,
Okay.
because obviously with a home that allows you to pay down your mortgage, or at least kind of meet your mortgage if you're paying that minimum 20%
Mhm.
on a home in Calgary. Um, but from our conversations, one of the things I don't think people take into consideration is whether a suite is illegal or legal,
Correct.
and what are the consequences of having an illegal suite
Yeah.
for you as a buyer?
Yeah. I would say $20,000 to $40,000 is the consequence.
Is that in value, or is that
No, that's in how much you're gonna pay to legalize that sucker. Legalizing is actually pretty complicated. The city's kind of been insane. Like for a while, they're like, if you don't legalize, we'll punish you. And then we went through this last cycle, and they were like, "We'll now we're going to pay you to legalize." And I've seen that happen 2 or 3 times where they've switched their stance.
yeah,
But now the city council has again reversed all that, and they don't want all these extra suites. So bottom line, if you want to play with illegal stuff, it's right in the name. It's illegal. It's not a great idea. I don't know if your insurance will cover you, and I know property management companies like ours, why on earth would we manage an illegal suite? It doesn't make any sense. Why would we take on the risk of that.
Right.
So if you want to legalize it, I would say on the low end, you're looking at 20,000 for a suite, probably 30, 40,000, honestly, because you're putting in separate heating sources. Windows are going to be 3,000 bucks a pop in the basement. And then when a city inspector comes, and mark my words, the first inspector will tell you need to do A, B, C. The second inspector will say, no, no, it's B, C, D. The third inspector will say D, E, F. And the fourth inspector will say, you did a bunch of stuff. Oh, great. Here's your permit. There's no coherency at
Yeah.
all. So just budget for way more stuff than you thought
Yeah.
possible and just forget about the first list because that's not comprehensive.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side, one of the things I've noticed on the positive is that when you do go to sell a property that has a legal suite versus an illegal suite, uh, I would average it. Obviously, depends on size, location. There's so many factors, but I would say you can actually get about $50,000 more for a property with a legal suite.
Okay.
So that is the plus side. Again, there's a lot of factors in that. It's not just a simple straight across the board in that sense. But all right, that's great. Great information. Now, costs. People, like we say, some people have the spreadsheet out, but if you've never managed or if you never had an investment property before, the costs can really add up. What are some costs maybe people don't really think about when they are getting into this?
Yeah, I mean, just plan on your appliances to fail. Your brand new appliances will fail in the next 3 years.
Well, yeah, we all know that. It's just in our homes.
It's just the newer the appliance, the shorter its lifespan. So I'd plan on appliances. Funny enough, sometimes I've even done this. Like, oh, I didn't factor in property
Mm,
taxes, insurance. 1 or 2 months vacancy. You know, we have an investment property and they just happen to put up 100 brand new units a block away from that place. Well, that kills my rental value of that property, right? So I think you need to really plan for the unknowns. Other costs,
repairs, things like that. Just little things like you talking about appliances, but
mm,
light bulbs, plumbing,
yeah,
other electrical stuff,
yeah,
yard maintenance.
yeah. Your tenant isn't gonna spray for weeds.
Yeah.
So okay, now you got to do that, right? Because you don't want your house to look garbage. So the costs are there's gonna be a lot of them, and if I had to rank costs, you know what the biggest cost is? The emotional cost.
Mm,
So yes, there's costs for maintaining that dishwasher or replacing it as the case may be, but what about the cost of when the tenant calls and says, "Well, I'm moving out, I'm breaking my lease." And how many nights you gonna will I awake? How do I deal with this?
yes.
That is
Yeah.
so stressful.
Yeah.
I do this for a living and I don't like it. So it's like that emotional cost, I would say,
Yeah.
is probably actually, in a weird way, the highest cost because it can create so much turmoil in your stomach.
That's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about, which was responsibility. So outside of the costs, uh, there's listing the property,
Mhm.
getting it listed. There's the legalities of having the right paperwork,
Mhm.
the legalities of how am I supposed to handle a tenant.
Mhm.
What are the terms that I'm not supposed to give them? What's legal, what's not legal here in Alberta? Vetting them, making sure they are good tenants, collecting money once you get to that point, um, mitigating any issues that come up, like you said, with the tenant. So now you're also, you're in the mitigation business. You are trying to make sure relationally they're doing okay, that they're happy with things, and then maintaining the property, which we just sort of touched on. And when they do move out, like you say, the emotional of maybe they leave in the middle of the night, or maybe they
Yeah.
whatever it is that they don't pay a couple months rent, and suddenly you're dealing with having to kick them out or a vacated property unannounced. Now you're cleaning, like there's, like you said, the emotional, all of these aspects. Um, Anything you want to sort of add to to that picture?
No, I mean, I think you hit on so many good topics, but the, like, an ideal world being a landowner is pretty easy. Here's the lease, sign it, everyone pays the rent, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
that doesn't always happen. Good things happen to people, and bad things happen to good people all the time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they can't pay their rent or whatever. So, there's the hard law. So there's a Residential Tenancy Act. So you need to know that you're abiding by the act. And whatever you write in your lease, as clever as you are, if that does not agree with the Residential Tenancy Act, it really doesn't
Right.
matter. So people are adding all these crazy clauses, and it doesn't matter if that is not covered by the act itself. So I think that's something to be aware of. That the investor meetings, I've seen people advocating these clauses and leases that are just categorically illegal. You know, and it's like I'm glad that you were clever enough to write that, but it doesn't matter because that is not in the act. You can't
But
say,
AI told me.
yeah. Gemini or ChatGPT said it would be great. So I think investors need to be aware that there is a law. There's a law that specifically covers tenants, and guess what? That law protects tenants. It's not set up to protect your investment.
Yeah.
So I think you really need to know the law, which is obviously what we've all done as licensed managers, is know all that stuff. But also the difference between what the law is and how they apply it. And believe it or not, there's a big gap there too. So unless you've been through some of the residential tenancy and all that stuff, you kind of don't know what they're thinking. But that's where some little bit of experience comes in. So man, you're right. There's just so much stuff to think about for sure.
Yeah. We're talking about an investment here. And so I want people to understand that I'm a big fan of real estate investments, obviously.
Sure.
I'm in the business, I see the value in them. But there's ways to protect our investments. And I believe with investment properties, the best way to do that is with property management. And I'm not just saying that for this interview. I think that's just the reality
Here's your
of,
20.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It's just the reality of this investment that you want it professionally managed. Um, so tell me a little bit about what Parallel does, what you think you kind of do well in the sense of setting yourself apart from other companies. Uh, what are rates? Just to give people a picture, an idea. What does a rate look like? How does that work on payment? And yeah, tell us what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what any property manager will do is they'll create a gap between property owner and tenant. And I think that's why you're advocating for a manager, because it's when you're the owner and that tenant calls you at 2 in the morning, or when that tenant says, "Hey, I need a break on the rent," it's so personal. And you're like, what do I need to do to make this work? And it's just like,
Yeah,
when you have a manager in the middle, the manager can say, "Oh, that's an appropriate ask," or "No, based on our hundreds of properties of experience, I'd say that's not really a reasonable ask." Where
right.
as an individual owner, you'll be like, whatever they say, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that having someone in the middle is exactly what creates a safe spot. Um, I think a property manager who's really doing their job is going to relationally connect with the tenant in a way that shows the tenant, listen, there's someone over here, they've got money, they bought a property. I'm here talking to you, and I'm here to try to make things work for you. And when people feel that personal touch, I mean, I think a lot of our work comes through showing a property as a company that actually cares about the tenant. And when the tenant sees that, they take our property over the one next door that's renting for the same price. So unless you happen to be a very good salesperson, you renting out your own house, you're sitting there thinking, "Oh, there's this problem, there's that problem, oh geez," and that's in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Where, let's face it, managers are professional. We know how to sell stuff,
Yeah.
and so that's the value that we bring. Is all that clutter is in our head. We're connecting relationally. We're making that product sell, and that's how we get renters, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's why managers are quite useful. And you can see I'm not just saying my company's so great, because honestly, Kelly, I've told you this, but it's like we prefer people shop around. Like, don't hire us. It's really fine. If you want to work with us, great. If you don't, that's also great, because we want to work with people who want to work with
Yeah.
us, right?
Yeah.
So, um, in terms of rates, I mean, property managers in Calgary, I've seen as low as 6% of the rent per month. I've also heard some astonishingly painful stories from those scenarios. So, I
Yeah.
mean, uh, not great.
Yeah.
I've heard as high as 15%. I'd say 10% is about the number that most people get budget for. Our company actually charges 12% of it. What we ask people to do though is compare our contract and our sales presentation to other people's contracts and their sales presentation, because we're hearing people are selling aspects of their contract, but there's all these hidden fees in there. So someone just goes and signs it, and before long they're like, well, it was 10%, but there was plus, 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 plus,
Right.
plus, plus, and they get plus to death. So we're just like, fine, 12% helps us cover our business. This is good.
Let's touch base just quickly on rental rates in the city of Calgary.
Hmm.
What are you seeing? What are you observing with maybe apartments all the way to luxury homes?
Yeah. Uh, well, let's try to create context. So 7 years ago, when I started this company with my wife, when in the heat of summer, there was 6,000 rental listings on RentFaster, which is the de facto. It's the guide that everybody goes to for a rental listing. That was in the dead middle of the busiest time of year. Now, in the shoulder season, like we're talking January, February, we see 8,000 listings.
Wow.
So there's a lot of inventory on the
Yeah.
market. So unless you're going in with really good pictures, I mean, we're supporting our pictures with numerous videos and everything we can do to make our stuff stand out. It's really easy to get lost in the crowd. There are so many
Yeah.
listings right now. So uh, honestly, for the DIY manager who's doing it with their cell phone, I mean, we will do better
Yeah,
than because
for sure.
we have the gear to take the pictures properly. We shoot the video, we do all that stuff. So it really is getting to the place where it's not just the property that's selling because there's so many of them. It's the relational connection you can make to connect those contracts, just like any
Yeah.
other sale, really. Um, did I answer your question? I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, just talking about sort of rental rates right
Oh,
now,
yeah.
and yeah, I'm curious, do you have like a segment of the market you would say stay away from currently, or one maybe that you'd say, hey, here's maybe the most ideal in this really tough market currently?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same old. It's in every book in the world about real estate, but location, location, location. So I can tell you, with the notable exception of sort of Southwest Calgary, where we are now, almost every quadrant of the city, almost the perimeter of the entire city is getting built right now. If you drive on the ring road, all you see is construction.
Yeah.
But for the would-be investor, buying an apartment in a flat of new apartments where there's not 100, but 200, but 300, but 400 no apartments being built in the same area.
Yeah.
What we are finding is those are all coming online at exactly the same time, and then that's just driving price locally down huge,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
So it's those investor only neighborhoods where really what 80% of the properties are going to be bought by investors. Just know that's who you're competing with,
right.
and it's a price. You're just fighting your way. What's it? Something to the race to the bottom, they say. Whereas we have other properties in well-established neighborhoods in Calgary that are still renting for a premium
Mm,
because those locations are great.
yeah.
People want to live there. So
Yeah.
for me, I would never buy. You do what makes sense for you, but I wouldn't buy in an apartment with 300 doors in it. It's just too much competition inside. We're seeing that even in the high rises downtown where the prices are just getting cannibalized right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking 30-40% drop over 3 or 4 years. And
Yeah.
so I think, to me, the apex of rentability is still a single family home with a garage and air conditioning in a good location. Um, there's so many up down suites right now. Those do make a lot of sense if you can rent the basement out, but just be aware that you know there's so many of them, but there's not so many single family homes in my opinion. So the
Mm,
starter level single family home is an easier rent than the up down suited unit because there's so
mm,
many of them because that's what all the new builds are. So
interesting. Yeah.
uh, that's how I would do if I was investing. Would do is I don't want to speak too freely, but I'd be careful with condos too.
Yeah.
As I mean, they're nice. You can park about a quarter million or 350 into the market, but where you're out of control there is condo fees.
Mm.
You know, those could be 200 today, but they could be 400 next year.
On a new build, they definitely will be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So my best strategy for condo investment is to pre-buy and then hold for the first 2 years while the builder is still on the hook for the building,
Mm.
and then before that 2 years expires, I would sell.
Yeah, pre-construction is starting to become a little more prevalent in Calgary. I know it's been prevalent in Ontario and BC a little bit more, quite a bit more actually. So, yeah, good,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, because I think then the market can appreciate over that time it's not even been built, and hold for two and then sell it. I think that's the only way I would invest in a condo.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, Steve.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions about investment or rentals or anything like that, feel free to reach out to Steve. We'll have his contact below. We'll also have a couple other videos here just talking about Parallel that you can click on and link to. So check those out. And if you have any questions for myself, you know my number. You're always welcome to reach out anytime. So thanks again, Steve.
All right,
and thanks for watching.